yeah, your password was changed. So then I had to go find my password. And it was like, and then it's like, we got to
Mad
use
scramble.
we got to use two-step authentication to open up YouTube on your phone to make sure you're who you are. It's just like, God, Joby's going to be like, yeah, he forgot.
You made it though, almost bang on time.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty action-packed 5 minutes.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. Got a meeting, leave it to the last minute, and then there's like, oh yeah, your phone or your computer is like does the update. It's like slowly going through that.
Classic.
Rik, it's been a while, man.
Yeah, what's going on?
It's well, I don't know, man. Well, since we last talked, you've been on a Camino trek through Spain, was it?
Oh God, that was, yeah.
You're building you're bringing dodgeball to the world.
Yeah, that's an irony right there.
And then you're traveling over ice fields in the frozen north of Canada.
I loved that you saw that video. Yes, that was crossing the Great Slave Lake there, the ice road from Yellowknife over to Detta. And I thought that was really kind of cute that of all memories that would come, you would be like, oh yeah, I remember driving on ice roads to remote communities across the north, and I miss that.
There's not many people that can say that, right?
It's true. It was so funny. I hadn't been on an ice road for a long time, and my friend in Yellowknife lent us her car. And I don't know, sometimes, I feel like there's maybe everybody up there takes their ice roads really seriously, but and I'm sure they do.
I take mine shaken, not stirred.
It was just funny because I was like, I just sent her a text and I'm like, hey, we're going to go out on the ice road. Are you okay with me doing that? And is it safe? And she just like sent the laughing emoticon to me. And it's like, and then when I got out there, it was like about as wide as an 8 or 10 lane highway. So, and it's rated for like semis. So of course she was fine with me driving her little SUV out there.
It's pretty weird though, right? Being on, I mean, I've had a couple of close calls on ice roads.
And that's what I mean. I think there's probably some that are a bit sketchier. Maybe they're just like, or they push it in the season a little bit longer than they should. This one is clearly like, they're about to go into, Yellowknife has this big festival, and I think it's probably on right now, actually, beginning of March, where they open this massive snow castle. And when I say it's massive, it's like, I remember somebody took me there years ago, and there must have been between 50 and 100 cars parked out on the ice in the parking lot. And then you went into this ice castle that was like a fort, and it had a ice bar. The glasses for drinks were ice, made of ice. There was a rave going on. So there was like a DJ with this massive system with everybody's just like, there's got to be a couple hundred people in there dancing.
In Parkers?
Yeah, well, in there with all those people moving around, it's pretty warm. And then there was, anyways. So yeah, that ice has got to be many feet thick at this point. So
I remember Pacanchicum. I don't think you ever went there, but we used to come to your house and then leave from there to go to Pacanchicum. And I remember, and they had a little cafe there, and there was a couple of framed pictures of like semi trucks where the trailer had dropped in, and it's just the truck, and it's just ready to slip in, and it's like, oh, that makes me feel good.
I think in some places it's illegal to wear your seatbelt when you're driving on the ice road.
Yeah, my craziest story, and I think I've shared it maybe before on this podcast somewhere, but I was driving because when we were in the peak of like doing the stuff on the reservations, we had Pacanchicum and Shamato were the two big communities that were probably the worst of the worst, and the ones that obviously I was naturally drawn to. I didn't want to go to the tame one. So Shamato was We drove there from your house. It was like at the end of the. I'm trying to remember there's a road that you take from Winnipeg that's almost 8 hours of driving, and there's one gas station that's halfway.
Yeah, yeah. That's heading up towards Thompson.
Right. So we drove to Thompson from your house in a 1989 Econoline van that had no floor in it barely, in the middle of winter, leaving your house in like January. I think you're like, bye guys. And so that was a whole story. So I dropped off a team there, and then I flew back to Winnipeg and then went and met the team in Shamattawa. So I had a van sitting at Red Lake, and I was supposed to drive that van to Pikanchicum and then pick up our team and then drive them out, because they had flown in to that reserve, but we couldn't afford to fly them back, I think. So I'm driving from Red Lake, and I go pick up the van, and I probably should have waited till the morning, but when I got to Red Lake, it was dusk. And you have to drive across a frozen swamp. So in the summer, it's just a swamp, but in the winter, it turns into a sort of road, but it's like the worst logging road you've ever been on, like this. So you have to go about 5 to 6 kilometers an hour, and I'm in just a regular city van, 15-passenger van. And so silly me decides to go in the night, and I'm like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? So I'm driving along, and when you have someone beside you, you can kind of, things become funny. So like danger becomes funny when you have someone with you, but when you're by yourself, danger just stays in the danger zone, and you're just kind of like, you're tight inside, and there's no one to laugh about it with. And I remember making it through this frozen swamp, and then I got to the edge of the lake, and there was someone in front of me, and he just disappeared across the lake, and there was a blizzard blowing, so all the snow was whipping up across the lake, and I saw his red lights just gone, like disappear. And I'm sitting by myself, and the van's idling, and I'm like, okay. And I drove onto the lake, and it's kind of staked with trees, like little Christmas trees, and that's kind of the size of the roads. And I'm driving, and then there's an island in the middle of the lake, like an Ontario classic lake. There's an island there, and because it was blowing so hard, the road definition had disappeared.
Okay.
So it was just all snow. And I'm like, I could go left around this island, or I could go right around this island. And all I can see on Pikanchicum is this little flashing beacon of the radio tower. Just this red bleep, bleep. And I just chose to go right. But the rule is on an ice road is you don't drive fast, because if you're a heavy vehicle, you create a wave under the ice, right? So you drive at this speed where you don't do that. And I don't know if my van had created any wave. It wasn't as heavy as a semi-truck. And I made the wrong call. I turned right, and all of a sudden I'm in snowdrifts, and I'm in a 2-wheel drive van. So the only way to get through the snowdrifts is to put the foot to the floor. So my van is like a speedboat. It's going like this over these snowdrifts, and I've got the door open, and I'm standing on the running bar outside the van with the door open, and my face, like snow blowing in my face, and my foot like leaned over as far as I could reach, flat to the floor. And the van just going. So if you were standing on the beach at Pikanchicum, you'd have seen these lights go up and down like this. And I finally made land, and it was like just this cliff. And so I clambered up this cliff, and this kid who was totally high on gas, huffing gas, he's like, no, man, you're like way far from the launch. You got to back out onto the lake and follow the island all the way around. And so I made it in one piece, obviously, but it was super stressful.
That's very scary. That's a terrible story. I can actually imagine it.
But if you're with someone else, it would have probably turned into a bit of a comedy. You just get the giggles in crazy situations.
Oh man, that's terrifying. Jeez.
Yeah. Where do we go from there?
Glad.
How was your hike in Spain with your wife? It was like Camino.
Yeah, so the Camino del Rey, it used to be called the most dangerous hike in the world. And don't ask me the timeline for this thing. It would have been like 100 and some years ago. I think these villagers made this. They basically riveted a path, like an elevated path high up on the cliffs, hundred couple hundred feet up from the river to cut down on the journey that would have taken many days could then take like an hour or two or something. And then it fell into disrepair, and so they closed it. And, there's videos on YouTube. I remember seeing one where the guys it used to be like a metal frame with concrete pad, but the concrete's broken up and fallen through, and so this guy's, like, sometimes he's walking along the edge, and it's this old rusted kind of, railings that are bolted to the wall, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the most insane thing ever." Well, I guess they closed it maybe in the '80s or '90s, I don't know, and then every year, tourists would still break in, climb over the barricades, whatever, and they would do this, and people would die every single year. So apparently the Spanish government finally said, "Oh, forget it."
Not
So they
looking good.
just repaired it,
Okay.
and they made it into this staggering hike. So, we really wanted to do that. You have to book it months in advance. There's so many people that wanna do it. Um, and so when we went there, oh man, it was pretty glorious. Like, if you're ever in the south of Spain and you wanna have an experience, that was, uh, that was it. So, yeah, that was really fun. I This is the second time I've been to Spain, and I don't know why. I always wanted to go to this country. For whatever reason, I don't know if you're like this. If you ever have a dream in the back of your head and you think, "Oh, that would be amazing to go do this," and then you never do it, and for no real reason. It's not like it's cost prohibitive to go to Spain.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
I don't know why I never thought I would actually do it, because I remember the first time we went to a flamenco club, um in one of the first little towns that we got to, and I was just like, "Oh my god, like, I can't believe I'm here." And then I was like, "That's something I always said I wanted to do, and I never thought I was gonna do it." So, this was our second time back, and we kinda split our time between, Spain, and then we flew over to Madeira, the island, and did kind of 5 or 6 days there too, and it was man, it was fantastic.
How many days is the hike?
That was just 1 day. It
Okay, okay.
so, the way it is now, um, you and it's pretty hilarious. If anybody out there ever decides you're gonna do this, we go online and you buy your ticket, and then you can buy for parking or not having parking, and you're reading all of these reviews, and people are like, "Yeah, yeah, you should pay for parking," but nothing is clear. And we were driving from the city of Malaga, so it's about an hour. We're driving in the dark to get up there really early because we'd booked the first you have to go in groups, that's releasing groups of people at different times. So we were supposed to be there at the first group. I don't know if that was 9 in the morning or something. So we drive out there and we can't find the parking lot. The only parking lot our GPS leads us to, there was a couple from Germany and a British couple and something. And there's literally a sign on the building that says, "This is not the parking lot you paid for."
Yeah.
So, okay, thanks. But why
Good
why
luck.
write that and not say, "Go back down the highway a kilometer and it's at the traffic circle." Like,
Yeah,
that's what we needed to do, but they don't tell you where to go. So we're all debating, and it's hilarious in the dark, how people problem solve these things and how our brains work.
yeah, yeah.
So somebody was like, "There's a tunnel," and the German lady was like, "There is a tunnel down the road over there. I think that's where it is." And they took off, and that was not where they should go. And these other guys, I don't know what their plan was, but Zara was just like, "Hey, let's go back down." And we jumped that down the road a bit, went to this traffic circle. Sure enough, here's where we go. The bus shows up, picks us up, and you walk out there through a tunnel that the bus drops you off at. And it was like most of the day. Like, I feel like it was a 3 or 4 hour just walk, but because of the way the hike is, it's not really all that elevated, so it was a pretty easy stroll. And there's 100 and some people there, and so we just kind of like blasted past everybody at first, and then the herd kind of splits up, and we were by ourselves for a lot of it, and it was just so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, my mother-in-law does these Camino pilgrimage hikes, you know, these
Right.
like they're like a month walk, and she trains for them. She's like 70, I don't know, she's 76 or something. And she's off to one in Portugal now. Just wild, by herself. Goes on these, and the cool thing is that these pilgrimages have become really popular, and they're in the rural parts of, like, you know, Spain, Italy, Portugal, you name it. They're all over the world, and all of the little villages that are along the way are making their living, um, putting these walkers up for the night and feeding them food.
Oh,
So
that's a
it's a
good idea.
so yeah, it's created a money source for these villagers who are just, you know, sheep farmers or whatever. And so you stay with locals, and then they send you on your way the next day. And some of these walks are like long, like 2 or 3 weeks of walking every day, you know. And it must be interesting if you go by yourself. You probably walk up to someone, break into conversation. It either works or it doesn't, and then you can just either walk on, or it's like this awkward moment probably where you're like silence, and then one of them speeds up.
Do you know, here on Vancouver Island, it was years ago I saw it, and I haven't actually. We were always going to do it. There was they'd made that sort of an idea. Could drive to Langford and park your vehicle in some parking lot, and then hike, and you were using the old rail line up island towards Duncan or Cowichan Lake or something. But they timed it out sort of with Airbnbs and little motels and whatever, so that you wouldn't have to camp along the way. You could just have your snacks and your kind of layers in a light little backpack, and then be able to stop at an Airbnb, and there was a couple little restaurants there so you could just order food, and it was and then when you got to the end, I think it was maybe Cowichan Lake, there was a van that would pick you up and bring you all the way back down to Langford to your vehicle in the parking lot. And I think that was supposed to be like a 2 or 3 day or 3 or 4 day kind of,
Cool.
and it sounded really cool. And we never did end up doing it, but I should look and see if that still exists.
Yeah, Tara and I rode our bikes during COVID from the ferry terminal there at Tawasin
Mhm.
all the way into Victoria, and then we stayed
Yeah.
2 nights and then cycled back.
Yeah, we've done that. Now it's like all completely off road. I don't know if it was at the time,
It was, yeah,
but yeah, the pretty spectacular
yeah,
ride.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was dope. How's what else is going on? Like dodgeball, like you're bringing dodgeball to the world. How's that
You know
going?
what's okay, so I do find this fascinating. A couple years ago, probably,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably more than 2 years, but I got some new equipment, camera equipment for work, and I needed to figure out how it worked. And I knew my kids were playing dodgeball, but I didn't really know what that meant. Like in terms of what does that actually look like? And so I was like, "Hey, can I just tag along tonight and like try out some settings on my camera?" And I had found it like such a fun thing to film. And I remember going over to Vancouver, following them to some big tournament, and they went the night before with their teams, and I took the first ferry in the morning, and I arrive at this gym 8:30 something in the morning, or whatever it was, 9 in the morning, and I happened to arrive right when they did. With their team. So I was like, oh, cool. I'll grab my camera bag, and we're walking up to this gym, and we open up the gym, and they're just these massive men. Like the one guy looked like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and there's these huge bearded men, and they're whipping these balls at the wall as they're all warming up, and it's thunderously loud, and there's hundreds of athletes. And I remember thinking, what did I just walk into? What is
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
And I look over at my kids out of the corner of my eye, and I feel like they're walking a little bit taller. They
mm,
got a little bit. I remember feeling like I could not wait to get out on stage, going
mm-hmm,
to a festival, and like bands are playing, and you see a band having an incredible set right before you, and you're like, I cannot wait to
mm,
follow up with this and try to take it up even a little bit higher. And so I see that look in my kids' eyes. They're like, they cannot wait to get on the court and play these giants. And so that introduction, I was like, I just started making highlight reels basically of them and their teams,
mm-hmm,
trying to make them look good. I was just following them around. I did that. Then I went back for provincials, and I went back for a couple other tournaments. And It was one of them. I was leaving the gym, and this athlete I have never met, I have no idea, because a couple of them from some other team in Vancouver, they came up and they're like, "Hey, we just wanted to say thank you for making the videos to help grow our sport." And that was not my intention at all. I was just like following my kids around, and I was pretty taken with the experience that they were having. And it was that moment I was like, "Oh, I see how it is doing that." And I feel like I could stop focusing entirely on just my kids and finding highlight reels of just my kids or their teams, and actually try to highlight the best of all of the players in this province or
The
in this
sport.
country, in the sport.
Yeah.
And then I start when they tried out for Team Canada and they made it, and I realized there's an international community. That was I was like, nobody knows about this.
No.
And I think so it has become, then I was like, okay, I'm going to make a documentary. I've never made a documentary before. I worked a couple times over the years on a couple different TV shows. And depending on, you probably get this too. I think it's a pretty common experience. If you work on a really big project, even construction or something, I think if you're on a really big project, you're usually there in a specialized role. You
Uh-huh.
have your one niche thing that you offer to that big project, and it's the same for TV shows or recording studios or whatever. So I remember doing, like, I was the guest coordinator, or I was the music director, or I was a panelist or something. Like, I had a very specific role.
Uh-huh.
Then if you do independent projects or you do smaller projects, often you have to do more things.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, you know what? I've never done a documentary before, but I know how to tell a story. And so I just started with my little backpack of camera gear, bought a few extra little bits and pieces and some good audio equipment. But literally, the backpack, I could carry it on the plane. And
Uh-huh.
that is all I've used to tell this story.
Uh-huh.
But then started to like interview these people. And I remember when the kids got on Team Canada and they were going to go to Worlds in Graz, Austria. I'm like, okay, I'm following them. That this story has to go to uh, to Worlds. And I was thinking maybe that's where the story ends. Maybe that's where the documentary ends. And maybe it is where the documentary will end. I don't know.
Yeah.
Joby, somewhere in the world of all of this dodgeball stuff, I don't have any memory of applying for this TELUS project to produce 6 episodes of essentially a TV show, but I applied somewhere in there to do this. And one day I get this email, "Oh, yeah, congratulations, you've been accepted to do this TV show." And I'm like, "What? What?"
Whoa.
I thought it was a scam because I totally didn't remember applying. And then it's like, no, that's a real thing. And so then I was like, now I have to do 6 episodes, and each one of those is supposed to be 25 minutes long. So if I was trying to do a 60-minute documentary, now I have to do 2.5 hours of content.
Dang.
So then it became this ridiculous thing.
This
I mean,
monster, you created a monster.
and they're gonna be the same content. I think at this point I'm doing 6 episodes, and I'm just gonna cut that down to be the best parts for the documentary. So yeah, my life has become a lot about dodgeball.
And you got funding for it from TELUS, which is great.
I did. And then I'm gonna tell you something that's even funnier. They just had, by the way, did you apply? I sent you that contact
I know, yeah, I
information.
did. I didn't.
Oh,
What am I gonna?
because the deadline just passed. You could always do the next cycle, but you should.
Yeah. To
This
do
is
what though?
essentially this.
Just
C-
podcast.
Yeah, they have like a whole thing just for video podcasts. And you could pitch like a theme if you wanted to do like 6 episodes of talking to certain people about a certain subject, or
Yeah,
whether it
yeah, yeah,
was whatever, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah.
yeah, what you're doing.
Oh.
Um, so you could apply for season 2, and
Hmm.
that deadline just came up. I'm not even done season 1. I'm doing this. documentary. And I was sitting there the other day and I'm like, the deadline's coming up. And I'm like, I feel like if this is going to be successful, and I feel like usually these funders are like, well, if we're in for a season because we thought it was a good idea and you have an evolution of that idea for a second season, usually it's easier to get season 2 than season 1. So I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. So I just applied for season 2.
Oh man, you just invited a
So,
shitstorm your way.
right. So if if I get approved for that, I will just finish season 1. I will just be diving deep into finishing the documentary, and they'll say, "Okay, you got season 2. Go for it."
And then you're gonna get a Netflix special.
That is the dream. That is the goal. Netflix or HBO or Prime or
I mean, it's
Sports
cool
Network.
how these sport, like, like Gabe and I were into the Drive to Survive series, which is done by Netflix, right? And it's taken car racing to the next level, and then but you can see the system in which they create these. That first of all they get you invested in the drivers, and then you get
Right?
your and then you start subconsciously choosing your favorite driver, because this is the conversation me and Gabe will have. Who's your favorite driver? Who do you want to win? And then yeah, and then you start, and then it's your guy, and then you're rooting for your guy, and they edit them. Like, I had to stop watching it before bed because I'd get so like excited. It was like holy adrenaline builds up in you, and it's
Right.
because they managed to just cram in all of the intense parts. But yeah, it seems like you've hit a bit of a niche there, because no one else is doing dodgeball except Ben Stiller.
And that came out 20 years ago. Well, and I think what's interesting is, of course, I would have my favorite players or teams.
Yeah.
There's no way for me to lose as the filmmaker. I'm not making anything happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember last year at Nationals, Canadian Nationals, I'd asked some of the footage I've never had before was inside the huddle. We see the players on the court doing these incredible athletic
Jumping super high.
gymnastic, incredible action, but we haven't heard their voice. And I remembered years ago doing a CD, and the marketing person, whoever I was talking to at the label, was like, Rik, everybody 98% of consumers want to have a face to go with a voice. So I remember there were still record stores at the time. So I went into the record store, and sure enough, like 90% of the record covers were like massive Christina Aguilera, massive focus of Britney Spears, of Justin Timberlake. It was like, oh yeah, okay, this is, but I was like, then that also makes everybody look the same. There's just this sea of black and white close up faces. And I was like, Zara, can you just do me an album cover that is just like as bright as possible? Orange, yellow, red, whatever. I want it to jump out, and then I'll put myself on the back so that if that album cover stands out on the rack because it's so bright and somebody picks it up, then they'll turn it over and they can see my face. And if that's what they want, then they'll be, that's huge. And I remember one of the largest distribution companies, the president called me, said, Rik, we want to carry your record. And he's like, I have your CD sitting on my desk right now. And he's like, Rik, this just jumps off he said everything. He's like, it just jumps off the shelf at you. You want to pick it up because it's so bright and vibrant. And then you pick it over and I was like, I'm just a dude. I'm just an independent artist figuring it out for myself. But I knew what I was doing. And so in this storytelling for Dodgeball, I was like, we're going to want to hear their voices. And where would we hear them? And so I asked about 4 or 5 teams during your huddles. Can I just show up and literally just push my camera right into your huddle and hear what you're saying? I would never do that, obviously, without permission. And so these teams said, sure, go ahead. And obviously, if they were talking shit about people or whatever, they needed to trust me enough that I wouldn't use footage that would be too private or too charged or whatever, because it's a pretty cool community. And so that was really cool to hear what they're saying. Sometimes I was like, what? My son once, he said something about, hey, be really careful. They're throwing 2 on set offense when we're equal players. or something like that. And I was like, when I was back in the studio, I was like, what
What
does that even mean?
code words?
And I loved that this sport is so strategic that if you both have 3 players, you're down to equal players, and you have equal balls, they're expecting an exchange of 1 ball, because now this team's going to have 4 and you're going to have 2. So you're prepared for 1 throw, but if this team comes up and you're only expecting them to throw 1 and they throw 2, if you don't have your head on a swivel, you might get nailed by that. And this team is really risking to do that, because now they're going to go down to 1 ball. And so it's like this level of strategy. I'm like, I've never seen anybody trying to expose the level of strategic gameplay that goes on in this sport. And in terms of telling a story that really honors this sport, not just being a game, but being as strategic as basketball or volleyball or hockey or any other sport, that was a really important choice. And then I started, I've mic'd up some players on a couple times to give them a lav mic. I need to get better lav mics and tape them down.
Oh yeah,
That's
but they go flying.
Yeah. But to have the play caller that's on the court, to hear what they're saying on the court, it's like, I love that. Maybe you do too. When they mic up players like NFL players on the field or hockey players or whatever, it's kind of fun to hear the chirping and the
Yeah. Well, the best part is of the F1 series is that you're allowed to it's, I think it's the rule now that the public can hear the radio chatter between the engineers
Oh,
and the drivers. And so there'll be a lot of tense, like boxing, they call it, is when you come in and get your tires changed, and they're like, box now. Like, I don't want to box now. You know, and then there's this like power stroke because the driver has to obey the manager, and we get to hear all that, which is really fun.
that's cool.
Have you ever seen that series on Netflix called Home Game? You should definitely check it out. It's
I'm just gonna make a note.
it's so entertaining, but it's a series that they did basically on all the obscure sports around the world.
Oh,
Like mud wrestling in the mountains of Tibet, which is like this heritage. Like one of them is in Afghanistan where they're on horseback and they have a stuffed goat pelt, like a goat pelt, and it's a goat, and they have to get the goat in the opposite ring, and it's like religion to these people, like full on. And then the craziest one is in Italy, and each town, like Valencia and all these different towns, they have this game that's kind of like dodgeball in a way, but there's a goal that is the entirety of each end of the court, and it's like a trough. And there's one soccer ball, and everyone is a defender, and you want to stop the ball going in the opposite goal, but it's not a goaltender because the goal is the entire width. And it is bare knuckle fighting, and it's been in their history for centuries, and they train for it like crazy. They don't get paid a penny for it, and the pride that they have. One guy's like, yeah, the worst I had was my eye fell out. And the guy's got, yeah, I've had my elbow, my shoulder surgery like 5 times, and knees, and they'll get out and they're big dudes, and they'll literally bare knuckle fight to try and defend this ball. And it's like, it's the beautiful thing about it is the pride they have in their town. Like this one guy is like, I hope that my son takes on what I'm doing. He's like, for Valencia, and it's like so amazing. But you should definitely watch it. I think it really inspire you.
yeah.
Because what your sport that you're doing is kind of like that. It's an unheard.
Right.
Like I had no idea that it was a thing. And then when I saw some of your clips on Instagram, I'm like, holy shit, these guys are athletes.
Right.
Like I would want to recruit those to my basketball team. Like those guys can jump.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So when you throw a ball, do you get to keep that ball that gets thrown at you as part of your arsenal?
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, some of it's what we would all know. If you throw and hit somebody, they're out. If you throw and they catch, you're out, and somebody gets to come back in on their side.
That's got to be really hard to referee because there's a lot of balls.
6 balls, 12 players. And that, when I was like, is this the only multi-ball sport in the world? And when I Googled that 2 years ago when I started filming this stuff, it's like Quidditch. That was the only thing that
Quidditch
came.
and
Harry Potter.
yeah.
So I was like, wow. So that's also a very unique thing. There's so much um, action happening. And it's what's interesting about this sport is like there are times when it almost seems slow. Like one team will come to the line, they'll throw one ball and they don't hit. The other team strategize. They have 10 seconds to make their play call, come to the line and throw. So they come and they throw. And if they miss each other, it can be like this back and forth. They throw one, miss. They throw one and miss. They throw one, because they're also incredible dodgers. So it's not like they don't know how to throw.
Mm.
It's like, and then all of a sudden something happens and it just kicks off this chaos waterfall. And there's just this counter chain of this person's hit, and dodging, and catch, and hit. And it's like, and then the dust settles. And that could last like 3 seconds, 5, 6 seconds. And then it's like, how many people are out? Sometimes half of the people are out. Somebody's coming back in. And as the ref, yeah, man, if it was going to move to an Olympic level, like they would really going to have to figure out how many refs are you going to have. Like at the international level, I believe you have 2 center court refs and then at least 2 backline refs. So 4 refs just trying to
Like,
keep
you're
track
out,
of.
out.
Right. Or you step on a line and you're out.
Oh, okay.
And then it's also like, so let's say you're holding the ball. If you block the ball, you're allowed to use the ball to block. But if they're holding it behind and the ball comes and hits just ball on ball, that's okay. That's legal. But if you're holding the ball like this and the ball comes and hits your fingers, that's a finger block and you're out. Well, that's almost impossible for a ref to call. So you
Yeah, yeah.
need this incredible amount of honesty
From the players.
from the players. And of course, even if you want to say the majority of players are honest, come on.
Yeah,
Like
man.
at any
I'm gonna fake it. I've already faked it in my mind. I played the game just now and I'm faking it.
totally. And so that finger blocking is probably the most contentious part of their sport. And as a viewer, just as a fan or an audience member, I wish that they would just eliminate blocking. I wish that you would have to either catch or dodge or get hit and you're out, because we can't tell as a fan, as somebody sitting in the audience, you can't tell if that was a finger block or not. So it's just like, it can go back and forth, just these thoughts. The most fun part of the sport is when people are getting hit or making these incredible catches or dodges. And if they just focused on that, they would eliminate the whole finger blocking fiasco entirely. And it was funny, during the Olympics, I was thinking, okay, like right now, there's no real money to be made in dodgeball. Nobody's making huge money or getting big endorsements. And there's already still some cheating. And then the Olympics comes up and they're talking about these guys who are getting their, like, injected in their dicks, these ski jumpers, so that their dicks would be bigger, so that when they were getting their suits made, that they could maybe get an extra couple centimeters of fabric in their suit, because, and then they showed this diagram where it's like 2 extra centimeters of your suit when you're flying in the air could translate into like 5 to 6 feet of extra length,
You are kidding me.
which could mean 8th place or 1st place on the podium.
They're doing that? They found people doing that?
Yeah.
No
And I
way.
was like, if people are willing to go to that lengths, and I'm like, man,
That's insane.
it was
How do they
So-
like figure that out? Like,
So
unless you stumble across the guy doing the injection, you'd be like, freeze frame. Tick, 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 tick.
Well,
hang on a minute. His
apparently-
penis looks really
right.
big.
Like, I don't know how we determine that, unless they stop getting the injections leading up to
And they got a
the
little bit of-
Olympics, and then somebody's like, hey, your suit isn't skin tight enough. I don't know. It was, I think humanity, like the vast majority of people, are probably honest. I remember them saying about Lance Armstrong getting busted for cheating in cycling.
Yeah.
They were like, everybody
Oh yeah, everyone's doing it.
Everybody is doing it. He got caught, but everybody's doing it. And you're just like, wow, man.
Well, the crazy thing about Lance, because I used to be super into road biking, and I watched the documentary on him. His arrogance is what put a huge target on his back, because he would be like, yeah, yeah, go on. Yeah, like he wouldn't just kind of slither away into the background. He would be like, because the way that they had figured it out is almost untraceable. And then so he won, I think, 7 Tour de France's. He went to retire, and then his ego was like, hey man, you should come back, because I think you still got it. So he came out of quite a long retirement, came back, and at this point he hadn't been caught yet. So he was clean. He was free. He had all these yellow jerseys on his wall. And if he just shut the hell up, he would have still had those yellow jerseys today. So he comes back, and he sucks. He's like off the back. They cannot keep up with the peloton. And so people are starting to get curious, like, what the heck has changed? This man was the best of the best. He would leave people in the dust. And now he can't even keep up. And so then it woke up the whole story, and then they went after him again and started to dig up the past. And so he brought it on himself in a crazy way. But he was so incredibly arrogant. Like, he would go right in the camera and just say, come on, test me. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary, but they would the night before the race, or they would have this RV that they would all pile into, and they were all getting blood transfusions. They were just like, yeah, they were just full on blood transfusions, and then back out there on the road, and it was almost untraceable. It was putting more
Wow.
oxygen in their blood so they could ride at massive altitudes and not. And I remember seeing this old commentator who was a 2-time winner of the Tour. He was commentating on the sport, and they were climbing the Alps. And it's insane. That sport is insane.
Mm.
And he's like, look at Lance. He's not even out of breath. What's going on? Like, he's not heavy breathing. And then it was like the snowball began.
Mm. It's interesting what we're driven to do. You know, I I have a couple friends who live in Japan, and I'm assuming because I comment or like on things that they post, the algorithm goes, "Oh, you're interested in Japanese content." So the other day, it comes up this word Ikigai. Ikigai? I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Ikigai?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Yeah, I know. Iki, I believe, is like life, and Gai is what? Wellness or something? What does it say? Well, it's this idea of a reason for living, the reason for living, or the reason to wake up in the morning,
Mm.
the meaning of your life. And it talked about um, the intersection of 4 things: what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs.
Mm.
And I was thinking about that recently, because I've never kind of been busier activity-wise and work-wise, and the scale and the scope and the amount of projects that have been coming my way. And I've always disliked using the word stressed. Um, I know that in our culture, being busy is often synonymous with being significant or important. So everybody likes to talk about how busy they are. And I think because it's like, well, that's how significant or important I am. But then there's this badge of honor, like I'm so stressed. And this idea, like I'm so busy that there's the only, like, as stressed is also has its own, I don't know, like a badge of honor.
It
Like,
does, yeah.
and I hate that word stressed, and it wasn't until I looked it up, kind of like how they define it. And, you know, there was this, you know, feeling tense or anxious or overwhelmed, but it had this element of the situation was more than your perceived ability to handle it. And I thought that was the word that was what was sitting with me. It was this, it's our perception. I'm not capable of dealing with doing a little documentary, doing a TV show, also going to like communities up north to do video projects and songwriting, like, as if I'm not able to just take moment by moment and a day by day. And it's been really interesting because I've hit my 50s, and so I realized a while ago, like, a number of people that I would have met, certainly in, say, education, principals or teachers, because I've been doing this long enough. Some of them are, like, a little bit older than me, and they're starting to retiring in their mid-50s or even late 50s.
Must be nice.
I wonder, honestly, thinking of this whole Ikigai, this idea, why do you wake up in the morning? What is that thing that makes you tick, that makes you excited to get up and face your day?
Mhm.
And because I feel like some of the people, like, I'm just feel like in my 50s, I'm just hitting my stride.
Yeah.
I realized the other day, I'm like, Rik, you've written over 1,000 songs in your life. Like, I love songwriting. Now I'm like really good at it. And it's good because I go into these communities and situations and they'll be like, "Hey, can you write a song with these guys?" Or, "Oh, these grade 6 girls, they were really inspired by that project, and now they came with some lyrics, and they'd like you to write a song with them." And I'm like, "That'd be amazing."
Mhm.
And I mean, I think anybody could write a crappy song,
Mhm.
but to write, like, a good song, catchy, something that
Mhm.
gets in your head,
Mhm.
um, I feel like I found not only just, like, my reason for waking up in the morning, but all of those things. I love it, and I can get paid for it, and
Mhm.
I'm good at it, and I think the amount of peers that I have that would now retire, would they not also be hitting their
Their
stride
stride.
at maybe they're retiring from this profession to go do something else they've always wished they could do, which I would totally understand.
Mhm.
But the idea of, like, yeah, I'd like to now retire and kick back because I have enough money to do nothing, maybe a round of golf a day. I'm like, "Oh, that would just be so boring."
Yeah. I think there's different, I mean, from what I've observed is that there's just different people, and, like, there's artists and then there's not. And I think that art could be running a business, it could be building a house. It's a mountain that you just wanna climb. Like, it's, like, and they love achieving these impossible things. And then there's people that just live for the weekend and, yeah, doing a round of golf or puttering around, and you can just see there's not that same, not that they're any lesser, it's just that there's not that art spark, which is
I
like
think
this.
that's Yeah, I think that's spark. That's what I think. And, you can meet people. Like I say, there's a few people that I've met who are, like, totally upfront, and I get that we're all just trying to figure out how to live the most authentic life, and so I remember somebody saying, "I work at this factory, not because I'm passionate about it at all, but it pays the bills, it's predictable, and it gives me when I leave, I don't have to think about it. The second I, like, walk out the door, I don't have to think about it until the next time I walk in for my next shift, and then it's those times off and those weekends and the whatever, that's when I get to go do what I really love, and I also respect that that's how it works for
Mm,
somebody, in that situation. I'm not saying we're all supposed to be the same, but I really like this idea of, like, for each of us, what is your reason for being? Uh, when you find somebody who meets that, doesn't matter what it is. I think that's where I find people who are, like, in professions I know nothing about, or even like dodgeball. To
mhm,
meet somebody who's playing a sport I've never played and I'm way too old to play it. Um, but you meet somebody in that sport is what, like, really brings the light, turns the lights on in them. They're fun to talk to.
mhm,
They're fun to watch. They're fun to hang out with.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been wrestling with that subject a lot. Maybe it's something we wrestle with in our 70s, in our 50s. Um, just this, I mean, we've talked, yeah, just this kind of like pull to create. Um, and living with that pull, like I've been really wrestling with how to live in a handleable way,
Mm,
because to me it's all about balance. The struggle I find as an artist is this, you know, Sistine Chapel syndrome, I call it, where you just cannot walk away from it.
mm,
This Amadeus Mozart, making you sick. Like that's the struggle that I'm constantly in a tug of war with, is because having a family is usually art is like a project, right?
Right.
Like I'm making this documentary. It's way more than I can handle. Like I throw myself in at the deep end and I'm learning to swim and I kind of like it. Like I'm barely holding on, but I know that there's this, that there in there is the spark, right? Because then I got reason to kick and make it to the edge and live. And anything less than that, like, being on a deck chair on the deck of a cruise ship is just hell, you know?
Right.
And but also it's a pretty extreme way to live, and with children and with just the kind of it's just, it feels like these cogs are moving at very different speeds. And then it's like, get, your child has a birthday party. You just got to kind of get some balloons and hang around and, do something that's a much slower rotation. Um, there's like there's some sparks there that grinding, and I'm just constantly figuring out how to balance my obsession
Hmm.
with the piece of art that I'm working on and normal life. I don't know if you feel.
Yeah, well, and I'm probably in a little bit like, how old are your kids? They're still in, like, school, right?
Well, yeah, if I'd have not got married again, I would have been like you, home free. I got married again and we had a restart. Now I've got like a 13 and a 14-year-old. My older two are in Vancouver. I just had lunch with them last week, and yeah, they're living their life.
Right,
It's pretty
right.
wild.
It is pretty wild, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they don't need me. Like they need
Mhm.
me but they take care of the bills and they do the thing, and it's just bizarre. It's bizarre to see.
I think that was, I think that was one of the things about, starting to do this whole dodgeball thing. I was very aware that I'm coming into their world, and also very concerned that I would dork up the vibe in their world.
Oh,
L
Dad.
I was like, "You gotta let me know
Yeah.
if I ever become that, person," and our relationship and maybe just me with who I am and kind of the work that I do. I'm always working with, kids and people in school and everybody's younger. So I, I have felt like I fit right in. It's actually kind of it's funny having a number of different athletes that I've met over the years. And last time I've been to two Canadian nationals, and the second time I'm just like, oh my god, I know a lot of these people. I'm walking down the hallway and I'm like, I know all these players from all over the country. And I'm like, I know what teams they play with. And so we're just like having these quick little moment interactions. When you play next and what court and how you guys doing? How was your last game? All right. Like, I hope it's like goes great. Have a great day. And it's just like all this interaction and lots of hugs and all the way around. And I'm just like, yeah, I said to somebody, I'm like, geez, and it's not even my community really. And somebody looked at me and they said, "Yeah, by now, I kinda think it is."
Yeah,
Like,
you're part of the fabric now.
you're part of this thing, whether you like it or not. So, I don't know, I was just talking to my partner a couple nights ago about this because you're talking about the artist thing and the project and life and whatever, and I might use creativity instead of artist, but I think we're talking about the exact same thing. I've found this so I just came off of a month in the Arctic, which is way longer than I ever book tours. I don't like being gone that long, but it just worked. So the first week we're in this French school They are been open for a couple of years, 2, 3 years, and they were like, "We really don't have a school culture, so we would like you to come in and help us write an anthem and kind of create the themes and the values and whatever that we can build this school culture around." So I'm like, "That sounds great." My business partner is French. So we go there. They actually wanted to incorporate the Welade is the traditional language of that particular region, so they wanted a trilingual song that had French, English, and Welade.
Jane.
So we spend this first week, I don't know what, there's 300, 400 students in the school. So it's this full on songwriting, recording, video production. We do that, and then we fly to the South Slave region of the Northwest Territories, and that's music production and more video and working with traditional language teacher and recording traditional drum groups. And it was 2 weeks of that. And then my business partner flew home. I went back to Yellowknife. And the last week was this teachers conference in the Northwest Territories. Most teachers in Canada, you probably know, they have professional development throughout the year, usually these non-instruction
Pro
days,
D
right?
days.
Pro D days. In the Northwest Territories, because they're so spread out, they get it every 3 years. They get to have
Wow.
Pro D for 1 week.
Okay.
So they shut the schools down all over the north, and all of these teachers fly to Yellowknife for their professional development. And about 6 or 9 years ago, I did this teachers conference once, and I knew that it was ending up to be this um, following week. That was why I hung around, because I did 3 different sessions for teachers. One was songwriting recording, one was slam poetry, and one was using technology to support traditional language, create traditional language resources. And so a full week of really like kind of diverse things that were all going on. And by the time I came home, I've noticed that when I have these times of this incredible outpouring of creative, like just everything's been going out, there will be this rush coming back in. Instead of feeling like drained and exhausted and empty, it's like the way the world of creativity works for me and energy or whatever, it's like all of this goes out and then all of this other stuff comes rushing back in. So it'll be song lyrics. I'll go through my phone the other night, and every song that I probably have a couple hundred song ideas on my phone. I would just start listening to them, and new ideas for the piece that was missing for that would all of a sudden come, and I'd be like, oh, and one would be on ukulele, and one would be on piano, and then one would be a bass groove. And I was just like, when I went to go to bed, I was like, I know this feeling.
Hmm.
I know this experience, and this is this Ikigai, this reason for being, this reason for wanting to be creative and put myself out there and kind of extend myself, is
Mhm.
because it's euphoric.
Yeah, it's like you're getting rid of it's like stale water, right? Like we have a
Yes.
well here on our property that we just dug, and I was talking to the well guy, and the way that most people's brains work is like if I don't use the thing too much, the thing will last longer.
Right.
Like if I have a car and I bought this vintage car, if I don't use it, it will last longer. That's not actually the way it works. It's like if the guy's like, if you use the well more, the well will produce more water. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, use it as much as you can. Otherwise, it will start to close in like a wound. It will start to close. Same with a car. If you don't use a car and push the car, the engine will start to be able to produce less power because it'll just kind of atrophy. And I think that and it's kind of I get that feeling if I'm feeling really dull and down, and then I go and exercise, which is like exerting more energy. More energy comes from the exercise, the oxygen in the brain, and so it's probably that's your your the flow, the water is then now flowing through instead of you just becoming a storage tank.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
I also think, we were talking the other day about, I don't think anybody in this, we're talking about how toxic social media is for everybody of every age.
yeah,
And I think most people have acknowledged that, I feel. I might be wrong, actually. I don't
It
know.
seems to be. Well, I don't know if teenagers are, but
Yeah, they're actually probably the generation that's pushing back the most
mhm.
of s- I want that some of them are going like we don't want smartphones, we want dumb phones. We just want phones that are just a phone and not distraction. And but then you have these people, and it's funny. I kept Facebook because I have these different schools. That's their primary source of communicating to their community. So I don't go on there very much. And when I do, I can't believe how like transparently this guy Chalmeth Palapatio was like one of the executives in Meta's or Facebook's early days, and he left quite early on, and he's been quite vocal in TED Talks, and you'll see him pop up quite often doing interviews where he's like, social media isn't broken. It's working exactly the way we designed it,
Mm.
unfortunately. And he has great regret. He's expressed great regret for ever being involved. And he's like, we realized that rage motivates people more than any other emotion. So if we can make you upset, you will spend longer time on the platform. And you see this. So now, if I go to Facebook, which I don't go because I kind of killed it, you can unfollow everybody.
Mhm.
And so I go there, and those little shorts, the little reels, I want to say half of them are obviously AI. They're not even real. They have nothing to do with anything I've ever expressed an interest in, but they're clearly designed to make me upset.
Mhm.
And the algorithm doesn't care why you're upset.
Mm.
If you're left leaning politically and a right wing thing will set you off, or if you're right wing leaning politically and a left wing thing will set you up, they don't care. It
Mhm.
isn't about politics or religion or anything. What's going to make you mad? We'll just try out everything, and then if we find it, then we're just going to pump your feed full of it so you'll stay
Mhm.
on here.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I was just thinking about, again, this idea of the reason for being and what makes a great life, and this idea of about being stressed. And I think maybe this was even one of our conversations online when you text me or something. You're like, what's going on in your life? What's happening? And and you were talking about how you're just feeling overwhelmed with all of this bad information. It was that,
Oh, is it? I think it was the Epstein file dump,
yes,
and how it
yes.
was so much that I just rejected it all. Like people like, what do you think about it? I'm like, I can't even look at it. Like this is too much.
It's just
Which
too
is seems
much.
to be the strategy in
It's
that specific
exactly. So
case.
if we can overwhelm you, or if we can manipulate you emotionally. And I think, honestly, if I was going to go do a tour as a musician right now, because I don't particularly do that, but if I was thinking of doing that, I would probably choose to do a house concert tour as opposed to a venue. And I think I would invite people that would like to step out of this time and place. Maybe we like park our phones at the door. Or maybe we turn them off. I would love to spend the night, not just you listening to me play music. I would like to write and create together. I did one of the teachers' sessions that I did at that teachers' conference in Yellowknife. We wrote a song. So it was a 3-hour session. So I was like, the first bit was like me kind of showing examples of how I've used songwriting to do all kinds of different things, teach subjects or, create anthems for schools about their culture. And then we took a little bit of a break and we came back. I'm like, okay, let's write a song. And I just walked them through the process of how I would write, brainstorming and the ideas, and people are throwing stuff out. And then how are we going to create that? And how do we add that to music and melody? And how do we anyways, and by the end, we all stood up and we recorded it and everybody left. And I was like, the slam poetry session was pretty much the same. Here's how I use slam poetry to empower students. Here's why it might be empowering for you. Let's write. Here's a writing prompt. Let's talk about it. And then we wrote and we shared and interacted on everybody's writing. And I'm like, I think there's a desire in society right now to not be a passive observer on the sidelines of all of these events that are happening. I think we would like to be active participants, and stuff like this overwhelming dump of negative information that just like it's just one, dump truck after another every single day. You can't even hardly open your phone and get through a cup of coffee without feeling overwhelmed at the state of the world, right?
I mean, just yesterday I opened my phone and it's like Jim Carrey's a clone. He went to get an award in Paris, and it's like everywhere. And then I could tell. I was like, oh, well, I got to kind of see what they're talking about. It's like, what are we? We haven't come far from like, yeah, the Colosseum, right? Entertain me.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's great what you're doing. I think that I admire your love for community interaction in your art. Like I don't know how I would do with that. I'm a bit of a lone wolf when it comes to my art. This is but I think it's great that you love that collaborative community inflow.
You told me once about a jam space. Was that like a past thing, or is that something ongoing?
Well, it's actually just recently last week we've had to close it down because my landlord has said I can't handle the noise anymore. But yeah, during COVID, I had a 500 square foot piece of my warehouse in Vancouver that was not being used, and I reached out to all the musicians that we were close to and said, why don't we just chip in each and just take the space over? And so we've had it for 6 years, and it's like 2 drum kits set up, all our instruments permanently set up, in-ear mixes, a soundboard that you can just plug a laptop into and record everything. And I had to learn the art of jamming. I had a really hard time with that because to me it was always like, what are we doing here? What are we making? Right? And that's the way my brain works. It's like, what's the point? What's the destination? And jamming, there is no destination really. It's like literally just enjoying each other and your talent. And it just gets sometimes lost in the ether. Like we're all in our like late 40s, early 50s. No one's writing an album, so it's kind of like I had to really cross this bridge of being okay with, felt like I was wasting time. And that's my own personal struggle is this productivity addiction that I have to produce. And there's a good side to that. Like if we didn't have people like that, then there would be no cars and bridges and planes, and we would still be sitting in caves, so, but internally it's a hard thing to live with constantly. That's what I admire about people who just want to get their guitar and go play around a fire with people. Like I've never been able to enjoy that personally because I'm just production oriented all the time. So that jam space helped me. It wasn't easy, but helped me be okay with investing 3 or 4 hours and it just disappearing into the ether.
So you did get to the point where you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed it. It was still a bit difficult when I felt like we were on a thread and I'm like, oh, we could take this somewhere. But I now realize it was just about being together with these people. But it didn't come easy. It felt like I didn't get that sense of accomplishment afterwards. It was a different sense, maybe, of just like going to a bar and shooting the shit.
It's funny, I I never learned how to play cover tunes.
Mm.
I never grew up in a band jamming on
Yeah, me
stuff.
neither.
I remember this one time I was a drummer and I was like maybe 19 years old. I was out of high school and never even dreamed or dawned on me that I could ever play drums in a band. And this local band in my small town, their drummer couldn't make it to a rodeo. They had a gig or something. Of course they did in southern Alberta. And they needed a drummer, and somebody had told them that I played drums. So they're like, "Hey, Rick, could you come to the house and maybe have a tryout and see if it would work. So I remember dragging my stuff down in this basement, sat down, got it all set up, and they started playing. I don't know if it was Beatles, I don't know if it was Bryan Adams or Billy Idol or something, but start playing the song. Of course, as a drummer, you don't need to know chords or lyrics. You know the song, and you start playing the beat to the song. And I wasn't like a great technical drummer, but I had a really good groove.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember starting to play, and we just locked in, and I was like, "Holy cow! I'm playing a song that sounds like the radio." I was just like, I had this big beaming smile on my face.
Yeah.
That was my only experience of ever jamming. I did do that gig with them and I played drums like that. But anyways, I've never learned how to play these songs
Yeah.
by bands that you hear on the radio. So when I was up north, on this last trip, there was this Chief Sunrise in Catlodache First Nation is a school I get to go to a couple times a year and have for probably 10 years. And usually I'm working with the younger students doing music and singing songs that we've written before, doing whatever. The high school kids, because I knew them and they knew me when they were little, I've often felt like when I come back, they're like, "Oh yeah, Rik, that's what we did when we were like babies. But we're not babies now, we're in high school, so we don't want to have anything to do with him." And it was last fall when we were there. I'm walking down the hallway with this one kid, and he was like, "Hey, do you know how to play electric guitar?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you know how to play Nirvana?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Could you teach me how to play Nirvana?" I'm like, "Sure." Then there was some girls that they went to MJ and they were like, wanted to learn how to play her bass. So we went to the principal and said, "Hey, if you had any budget at all, we could, around Christmas time, Long McQuaid would often put these packages, like a little amp and a guitar and a strap and a soft shell case, that kind of a package." And she's like, "Yeah, go do it." So MJ bought a bass package in Winnipeg, and I bought a electric guitar package here in Victoria. We brought them with us in February. So we set up this area in the library, little library. And last year, there was one of the classes had been given acoustic guitars. And there's maybe 20. And if they did 5 lessons or something, they were allowed to take those guitars home and make them their own. And so these kids had done that. So we get into this room. Now, I play an open tuning. I don't know if you ever played an open tuning as a guitar player, but I loved it. When I first found it, I loved it. And then it was such a pain in the ass to like put it back into regular tuning that I ended up,
You need another guitar.
if I was touring, I would have a couple guitars and
Yeah,
one would,
totally.
but so anyways, over the last however many years, I hardly ever play in regular tuning anymore. So I'm like, well, I got to teach these kids how to play. So I started teaching, if you're going to teach somebody how to play guitar from square one, playing regular tuning, you could be there for a couple weeks before the muscle memory and you're able to get the shape and you remember and what they all are. So the first day, it was pretty tough slog, not making a lot of progress. I could tell it wasn't really that fun. And at the end of the day, I went back to where I was staying. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I not teaching these kids how to play in open tuning? There's no rule that says you have to start with traditional tuning and then when you know how to do all that, so I went back the next day and I'm like, "Hey guys, I play in an open G. Here's how we do it. Now we can play with one finger,
And it sounds
basically just
dope.
bar chord." And so I'm like, "What do you guys want to learn?" And they're like, "Oh, do you know how to play Creep by Radiohead?" Like, "Yep, it's 3 chords in the same order, the entire song. Here's how it goes. And press on 4, press on 5. There we go. Can you do that?" Well, by the end of the first session, I'm singing and playing, but they're playing along and they're having that moment that I had in the basement back in Southern Alberta. They're like, "Holy cow, this sounds like Creep.
Well,
I'm playing Radiohead."
and you realize it's not magic.
Right
Because I
now,
think we put them on a pedestal and say, "Oh, that's just magic. We could never do that." And then you realize, "Oh, I can."
so then it's like, "What else, you guys? Oh, what was the other song? Oh, Running Up That Hill," because they don't watch Stranger Things. So the kid, well, that's 3 different chords, and it's move your finger this way. And so then we found a piano in the school and dragged that down. And I remember MJ was there. She's teaching them how to play bass at the same time. And then I also play piano. So we bring the piano in, and then somebody got those little sticky stars. And so it's like if we're playing Radiohead, you'd put a purple star on the top of the lyric sheet, and then you'd put 4 little purple stars on notes on the piano, and you'd be like, when we're playing Creep, you could play any of these 4 notes in any order, and it's going to sound good. And all of a sudden, the kid on the piano is like, this sounds amazing. And the kid playing Creep with one finger is like, this sounds amazing. And you're having that moment.
Yeah.
Where I guess I'm saying all of this because I don't think I could go around a campfire and just jam on cover songs and really be super excited myself. But this, passing on the love for playing music with people who've never had that experience before, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was super fun and rewarding. I don't even like Radiohead. I sang them for 2 weeks straight.
It's pretty crazy how way in the middle of nowhere, the song that they pick out of the air. Oh, I mean, I grew up in England, right? So I'm a big Radiohead fan. Is Radiohead and Kate Bush. Like, what? I mean, I remember being in Pacancicum, which is literally like being on a third world reservation. I mean, like bonkers. And they actually, we would always have these campfires, and the girls came up and says, have you heard this new song? I'm like, what new song? And it was Yellow by Coldplay. And I'm born and raised in England. I never heard Coldplay before.
Whoa, you heard it there the first time?
I heard it there the first time, and then I learned it because they had a youth center that had been derelict, and we kind of revived it. And oh man, it was so cold in there. We had to bring extension cords from close by houses over so that we could plug our amps in. And we learned all these cover songs, and Yellow was one of them. And we had a burn barrel in the middle of the youth center, so inside a building. The only way we can and we had to be so close to it so our hands could feel the strings on the guitar because it was so cold. So we had this burn barrel inside a building with extension cords, and of course all the older kids would keep unplugging them because they thought it was funny. So it'd be like right in the middle of a song and everything would go silent. And the only thing you could see of us was the upwards glow of our faces because the fire was just shedding a bit of light on our face. So we looked like these demons playing Brit rock. But I remember some of the bands that I still listen to today were introduced to me from kids on the res because they would have nothing to do. And they would learn all this really obscure, like bands like Suede, which is like a total underground band from the UK. And
what was funny is this group, they wanted Come As You Are by Nirvana. They wanted to learn how to play Everlong by Foo Fighters. Like,
yeah,
all of these
pretty
songs,
cool music. Like,
definitely cool music, but also music that I was playing or was like my peers from the 90s. So I found that really, you're telling your Yellow story. What reminded me, Joby, was I don't remember what community in northern Manitoba I was in, but these kids wanted All the Small Things by Blink-182.
Okay.
I'd never heard it. The musicians I'd hired for this tour absolutely knew everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, oh, Rick, it's super easy. It goes like this. He jotted out the lyrics on a piece of paper, and he just started playing the 3 chords, and he was like, all the small things, truth bring you bring me roses. And I was like, immediately, it's such a predictable formulaic song that I was like, oh, I know it. Totally. So never hearing the song, they just start playing it. I start singing it. It was like the only part I didn't know is that say you won't go, I will not go. Like you kind of hit the chords and let it ring for a bar or whatever. Anyways, we did that all of the different communities, reservations and communities for that whole tour around northern Manitoba. It was like a month later before I actually heard the song on the radio, and I'm like, oh, I've been performing this song. I was pretty close to that guy.
I remember we were so subpar, our musicianship, when we toured with Dorothy doing the shows in in schools, and um like we were not good musicians. We would play these shows, and then we'd be like, "Oh, talent moment! Anyone in the crowd want to get up and play a song?" And this girl got up. She must have been 14 years old. Gorgeous First Nations girl. She gets up. She throws the guitar over her head, and she plays Metallica impeccably. And I had to follow that. I had to get up on stage and just like blow my way through these shitty versions of rock songs. I think we did we did Mac Good, Foo Fighters, we did Our Lady Peace, all those kinds of things. But yeah.
Have you seen this YouTube channel, either Drumeo or Musicora or something? Musora, that's what it's called. So Drumeo is where they'll bring these famous drummers on and they'll give them a song that they've never heard before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a drumless version. So, and then it's like you have full freedom to come up with whatever part you want, do anything you want. And then when you're done, we'll play you the original. We'll see how close you came either to the original or how unique your approach was. Have you ever seen this? Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, they gave him this 30 Seconds to Mars song. And I'll send you the link when we're done. It was pretty wild. He just he listens to it and it'll let you hear what he's hearing. So he's like, what is it? Oh, he's like, it's in 3. So it's like, and then he just starts playing it and he just literally just plays the crap out of this song, having never heard it from beginning to end. Usually people are like, slogging their way through it and they want to make a chart or they want to do whatever. And I think that's part of the channel, is to show how everybody's approach to these things is different.
Mm-hmm.
What I love, if you ever watch this channel,
Mm-hmm.
it's super cool. Like, so he's a guy in his 60s now, played his whole life with all kinds of people, and he understands it's the groove. And I think he listens to the instructions, and the instructions are, you're free to do anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
So he listens to the song, whatever he feels, he just plays it with confidence. Somebody else will come in, a more insecure, younger person, doesn't have that experience, doesn't have that confidence. And clearly, a lot of the more inexperienced drummers think the task is that they're supposed to figure out what the original part was and try to come up with it.
Yeah. Overthink it.
They overthink it. And they don't play with feeling or with energy, and they don't figure out what does the song need and what can I play. And they express all kinds of anxiety and insecurity. And I'm just like, if you listen to the directions, there's no way to screw this up. He said, do whatever you want. You want to play the whole thing on one drum? You're allowed to do anything you want. And Musora, they bring a band in and they'll say, we're going to play you a song. You have complete freedom to do whatever you want, but we want you to basically remix this song into what you're known for as a band. And there are these two girls, I don't remember what the name of their band was. I think they were sisters maybe. And they did this System of a Down song. And they came up with the coolest version. But those two channels, I find every once in a while, once you start watching something on YouTube, then it starts pounding.
Suggesting.
Yeah, all the time. But I like those two things in periodically watching those, because it's like interesting to say, hey, your creative vision, your language, your style, your interests, whatever it is that informs you musically, it's all valid. It's all, and in this moment, we want it. We want to hear what you would personally do. And I think that's such a fun and exciting invitation for anybody in any capacity of your life. If somebody just goes, man, what are you thinking? What are you reading? What are you feeling? What are you working on? What are you excited about? Like, I've totally changed. I don't really like small talk. And because I travel a lot, I shouldn't say I don't like small talk. I don't just like stuff that nobody cares about. you find yourself, both of you are standing there talking about the weather or something, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey man, like, what do you love to do?
Mm.
What
Get deep quick.
what are you excited about? When you're not doing this, what do you love doing? When you open up a conversation to talk about what somebody's actually interested in, oh my God, I don't even care what it is. It could be like stuff I don't know anything about.
Mm.
And if you're passionate about it and you love it, I will almost be guaranteed I find something about that fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it's that age-old message, right? Be the authentic you, like, yeah, I'm the same way. It's like your dodgeball story. Like, it's this diamond in the rough. It's like people are actually passionate about it. They train, and it's fascinating. I think you could see a professional ping pong player and be blown away.
Right.
Like anything on a high level where someone is fully into it. I went to this property the other day to pick up something I found on Marketplace, and I just drove down the road, and it was interesting because I had seen this thing on Marketplace, and I'm like, I kind of need this for a project that I have way down the road. I don't need it right now. And I felt this little inkling inside me just to kind of like go.
Hmm.
And it was like this rainy morning. And so I got in my truck and I was like, all right, I'll just go. I don't really need it, but I'll do it. So I went down, and as soon as I went down his driveway, I see this, because I'm a property owner and I love this whole story. And this guy's got 150 acres with a 10-acre lake on his property. And I just see all of these projects going on all over the place, And instantly I'm like, I'm lit up, and I want to get beneath the surface with this guy. And he meets me and he's kind of standoffish and just like takes me to the thing I was buying. Let's do the transaction and call it, And in my head, I am manipulating the situation subconsciously because I want to get beneath what I'm buying from him, secondary. I want to know how he got here, what he's doing, what his plans are, how he makes a living, how he figures this all out. Like, I'm genuinely interested. And I think the older you get, the better you get at stick handling
Right.
a situation. And yeah, I think for some reason I was able to disarm him, and and then he's just opened up. And it was just like, and by the end of the interaction, it was like, take my number. Like let's do coffee sometime. Let's have a sauna. Like, he had a sauna down on his 100-acre lake. I could see it in the distance, barrel sauna, and I drove away from there just feeling like that turns me on. Like, that turned me on right there. It's like, this guy has been beavering away by himself with no one watching him. And I just got to see this painting he's been working on. And I'm just like, dude. And those stories are everywhere.
Yes.
Like, people are making art not noticed. It kind of drives me crazy how we're so obsessed with the famous folks only.
Right.
Like, we're obsessed with this obnoxious Hollywood class. I just find them obnoxious now. They're so fucking rich and sickly.
Right.
They're sick.
Yeah.
That sure, they're talented, but they're ill. A lot of them.
Yeah,
Facelifts and Botox and this and that and everything else. I'm like, to shift our focus.
Well, it's funny because I remember when I was touring for a living as a musician, I would be the last person who should tell you anything about the city I was in. I'm just coming through. I'm not even here for 24 hours. I've driven into Calgary. I've set up, done sound check, gone to my hotel, got ready for the show. Now I'm on stage. As soon as we're done, we're going to be tearing down, loading out. And tomorrow I'm going to be in Edmonton, and I'm going to do it over again. And then I'm going to be in Saskatoon, and then I'm going to be in Winnipeg. And it's like, I feel like with actors and the kind of celebrity class, it's like they're going from one project to the next, but reading lines that somebody else wrote in a way that somebody behind the camera is telling them to read, edited by somebody else in the studio, to like, they actually don't have a lot to say about life or anything else based on what they're doing as for a career.
Mhm.
And so we've made these people who have the least to say, we've given them the biggest platform, when I think that was the thing. I remember a shift when the Lord of the Rings movies came out back in the day of the DVDs. And I remember I was quite taken with, I'd watch a movie when DVDs first came out, and then I'd want to watch the movie again with the commentary of the main actors. And I remember starting to do that with Lord of the Rings and realizing the actors don't know anything. Like, they're all really good in their roles, but they don't know anything. They're like, oh, I remember I had a sandwich. I remember Sean Bean saying, I remember doing my death scene with Vigo, and it's like we did all of my shots, my angle, and then we took lunch, took a break for lunch, and we're eating and come back, and then he smells like onions and lettuce, and we're doing all his, and like that's all they have to offer. Then, but Pete Jackson and Philippa and Fran Walsh, like the writers, the directors, the producers, the ones that are like, oh, we were rewriting this scene and we wanted to capture this part of the story. And it's like, I remember like, that's who I want to listen to.
Yeah.
The person who's creating this. And so like you say, you go to a guy's farm, you go to his 100 acres and you're like, you're the dude with something to say.
Mhm.
Because this is your world where you're dreaming up what, visions are in your head and you're making them real.
Mhm.
And now this is inspiring me. And you probably go away and it's like inspired in some unique way in your own soul
Mhm.
to like bring that energy back to your property and do God knows what. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a fun story. I like that. I like meeting people like that too.
Yeah. I think we gotta stop being ourselves with this, acting class that we this class, like they're in a class, right? And we just kind of
Right.
like we've gotta, what's it, comparison is the road to misery. There's an incredible, it's a bit of a diversion, but same kind of vein of, there's an interview that's been kind of all over the internet. It's this American guy who won the American Open, which is the pinnacle of golfing.
Mm.
And, he won it this year, and he was being interviewed after, and all the cameras are going off and the sponsors are there, and he literally just got the trophy, worked his whole life for this. And they said, how's it feel? And it's the most honest answer I've ever heard from someone at the peak of their game. He's like, well, the first 5 minutes it felt like euphoria, but now it feels hollow. He goes, what is all this? He says, I'll go home tonight and have to change my kid's diaper and put them to bed. And then I'll wake up in the morning and sit on the edge of my bed and I'll think to myself, what's next? And the whole place was just silent. He was like, how do we follow that? And I'm like, that's what we need to hear more. Is there a there, right? And I think
Mhm.
I'm wrestling with that a lot. It's like, you work so hard to reach this mountain peak, and then when you get there, there's just 10 more mountains to climb, and that you don't see until you get to the peak.
I think that lesson is probably why I have so much fun in my life right now. It was probably, 5 years, 10 years ago, I don't know. If I would come into a school and I would write this song and then I would make this video and I'm back home, gonna produce that song and finish editing that video, and I would labor over it for days,
Mhm.
trying to make it perfect, whatever that meant, trying to
Mhm.
make it. And then I realized one day, I'm like, nobody cares. And I don't mean nobody cares in a bad way. I mean, nobody cares. The point was on the process.
Mhm.
And if I made that creative process with everybody in that school, teachers and students and parents and everybody that was involved, if they all went away and they had an incredible time, I just need to capture that memory, that vibe. Doesn't matter. Nobody's sitting there going, oh, the guitar is like too loud or too quiet. Oh, his voice is too this, or I wish it was like a couple more shots of the kids singing in the gym. Nobody cares. And that just gave me this freedom to just like do the best you can right now and then move on to the next thing. Because yeah, there was no great sense of satisfaction with posting that video that I'd spent 100 hours on versus the thing that I spent 5 hours. Uh, let's just live in the moment and, yeah, not put that weight of expectation on ourselves. I could think of a lot of things that are like that. I think that with the documentary right now, that's why I'm trying to have as much fun as I can, because I think when I'm done, whenever it if I manage to, like, find a streaming service that wants to host it, like, it'll be cool the first time I can go to a menu and see the thumbnail. It'll be cool the first time I can click on that and have it come up and watch it on TV, and then that'll be it.
What's next?
I'm not gonna be sitting watching it, like, over and over. I've already watched it so many times. So
Yeah.
it's like, I realize that's not gonna be the big payoff. This is it right now, just having fun.
Yeah. It's a journey, right? And it always comes back to the same bloody thing. Like it's like live in the moment and
Yeah.
enjoy the journey. And it's so hard to land in that place, I find. I mean, I remember when I built this house that I'm sitting in, I was obsessing over this and that and everything else. And I think that's something that happens with age is because, like, they say, watch. There's a bit of an echo in my voice. They say, look for the patterns, right? And I think the older you get, you start to see the pattern. And that doesn't come when you're young. Like you need a reference to that. Like the
Mm,
last time I did this, and this. And so I'll be building this house and obsessing over one little corner. Like, oh, the wood doesn't match up perfectly. And what you notice is when you stand back and the whole thing's done, nobody sees that piece and you don't even
nobody
see that
cares.
piece. You know,
Totally.
you just see the whole, you see the experience. You're like, this house makes me feel a certain way.
Right.
Um, and, you know, I guess there's a place for obsession when you think about someone like Steve Jobs, who obsessed over every curve and angle and functionality of his device. But, wrangling a piece of land, which I've done a few times, and like making it into some kind of structure, which is what us humans like to do. We like to take God's wildness and create structure to it. I
Mm,
want to make the stream go straight. I don't want the wavy, whatever it might be.
right.
And the humbling thing is, I remember on Gambier Island, which is an island here in BC, that I terraformed an acre of land, like felled the trees and did all the stuff and had a lot of fun doing it. But I remember just sitting there having a coffee often and realizing, like, the humbling part about this is that, like, if I just left BC for 5 years and came back to this land, the forest would just take it all back over.
Mm,
And there's this voice is like, what are you doing? Like, what I was doing was art and it was feeding my soul.
mm,
And it was good. It wasn't a bad thing, but the drive in which I was doing it. It's like some reason I was doing it under this crazy timeline that didn't need to be there. And the push and that part was the unhealthy part, which was sort of there too. And I kept hearing this kind of like this voice, like, why?
mm,
Like, what are you trying to prove here? you know,
right.
it, you miss the thing, right? So often we miss the thing
Right.
by trying to achieve this shiny, the thing that the lesson was to enjoy the people along the way. I mean,
Mhm.
it's such a simple, trite, almost trite, um, line that we hear, like live in the moment, enjoy the journey. But it seems very hard for humans to do, myself included, like really land in that place. Um, yeah.
Well, definitely learn to pay attention when you feel it.
Hmm.
Maybe that's why I don't mind, I think transitioning from my 30s to my 40s was, I think, the worst for me personally, because it felt like I don't feel like I figured anything out. I don't feel like I'm further in my career, really. Now I'm getting to my 40s. This feels like people are going to expect that I've got my
Shit
stuff
together.
figured out. Yeah, and I don't. And I remember thinking life just goes downhill from here. I never really appreciated that I would have more experience, more talent and abilities and capacity for dealing with the challenges in my life, and that I might be more prepared rather than less. And then there was that shift of, like, it wasn't all about me. somewhere in there it became about these projects were about like, oh, what if I invited like 300 people into this creative process that I love to do, and we all had fun? What if three, and it became about like I could change somebody's year. I could make this week the best week they've ever had. Uh, and I'm good at that. And all I need to do is just like, yeah, like take that capacity that was given to me to be an entertainer, to all of this time that I've spent, um, learning how to play instruments and make videos and go in and just share that with other people who would like to learn. So right now, like all of my camera gear, it's pretty, what do I call it? Pretty robust. I've leaned into the action kind of camera world so that if I give it to kids, and they happen to like wipe out, that if it's made for snowboarders or dirt bikers and it can survive that, it should be able to survive a middle school kid.
Huh.
Um, but it's been super empowering for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think, yeah, you're right. For some people, it's really hard. And then if you find someday that it isn't really hard, you find that you have had just an incredible experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when you learn to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
You get older and you go like, you know what? This is what I need to do more of. I
Yeah, I mean, you're in a really good place, and I know, and I've felt that. I've been in those waters where it's more blessed to give than to receive. That is a truth, right? That is so true. I mean, that you will never feel as much joy as than when you give something away and make someone else happy.
mm,
And we live in such a selfish world where it's like the thing that's going to make me happy is a new purchase on Amazon. And then you realize it comes and it doesn't. And I felt that when I was doing work with on the reservations and all that different kind of work. I mean, it's incredibly rewarding giving
mhm,
away.
mhm.
Um,
Well, that intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. That's why I think that word or that teaching, it's like it was so timely for me to hear that.
yeah, take what you're good at, and
There you
yeah,
go.
there you go, bro. Well, it's awesome to connect with you again.
Totally.
Love you, man.
You too. Someday you're gonna come and we're gonna go for a bike ride around
I know.
Victoria.
We're literally on the same piece of land. This summer, we are coming to Victoria.
Right on.
I can feel it.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. And
Thanks for making the time. I really appreciate it.
all right.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Ciao, ciao.